Good morning, everyone. Hope we're all doing well on this Thursday morning, 9:35 a.m. A little bit late start. Blame the rain. I ended up getting up late and taking the dog late. He's next to me, fast asleep. So at least I managed to get him out. It's absolutely horrible here. I can see head wires. It's the evening in Australia. Hopefully, you've got better weather than we've got. Hi to Greg Frost. Hi to Connor. Hi to Yelena, who's liking the music. Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? Iconic, some would say. Hi to FPL Freddy. I'm so confused, aren't we all? FPL Bateman in the chat. Daniel H. Kenneth M. Loads of people already joining me on this morning stream. Hopefully you all enjoyed BlackBox last night. I had a really good time, actually. I had a pretty stressful day. Went into London, third day in a row. I don't often go into London. Third day into London, 2 days in the office, and then 1 day doing some presentations. And it's a long one, you know, when you're just like, yeah, today is a big day. And then had to get back, set it all up. I've started a notes which is stresses Mark has before a stream, and I should have done it years ago because it would be endless. But rain is the first note on the list. He was worried about the acoustics in his shed, and then if you actually saw it. It wasn't the acoustics that were the problem. His tech started going wrong, and the internet started cutting out. So yeah, he was actually rightfully worried about this one. For a change. Hi to Legolism in Singapore. John Meehan in Perth. Amazing. SFPL. Why didn't you also take walks in the jungle? Yeah, I can't afford his equipment. Someone's doing well for themselves. I think his camera's quite a pricey one. It is good though, isn't it? I have to say, his of all the videos we've done, I think the Mark wandering around Horsham is one of the best received ones. So I'm sure he's going to carry those on. There'll be some kind of members only videos. That sounds a bit OnlyFans, isn't it? Not OnlyFans. There's be some kind of Godfather tier member. That's better. Videos coming too. So do check that out if you're interested. And if you're on this stream for the first time or listening on the podcast, welcome. This is where you get to listen to a 2.3 million ranked manager talk about all the bad decisions they're going to make in the future. So thanks all for joining me. Let's talk a little bit about game week 10. It was a week that I was pretty stressed about. If you saw the stream last week, I didn't really know which kind of direction I was going to go in. I was flip-flopping between Saka and Watkins. Obviously both had great fixtures. Couldn't decide which one to get. The only way I could feasibly have got both would have been to sell Haaland, which I was debating at the kind of start of the week. As the week went on, it started to seem like less and less of a good idea, and I'm glad I didn't go with it. So in the end, I prioritised Watkins, Alvarez to Watkins, which didn't fill me with, kind of great feeling, because I've liked having Alvarez in my team. He's done really well. But obviously Watkins going up in price, 0.2, and with the fixtures to come. In the end, I made that move. And that meant that Ward-Prowse, I could finally get rid of Ward-Prowse. So sticking with the, get rid of your weakest players. I got rid of one last week. In him, moved him down to Adingra, who blanked as well. So in the end, it made no difference. Just to reiterate, my fifth midfielder spot, I have had Richarlison to start the season. I swapped him to Mbeumo. I swapped Mbeumo to Ward-Prowse, and I swapped Ward-Prowse to Adingra. And in 10 weeks, I have had 2 points every week, or less, from that fifth midfielder. So I'm effectively playing with 10 men every week. I'm hopeful Adingra is going to get something. We're going to look at his stats in a bit. They're not amazing. He had a good chance, actually, in the last game. No real competition on the right, so I think points are going to come for him finally. Surely they will. But elsewhere, Areola in goal, I think he's a problem. I know he makes some decent saves. I just don't think West Ham are going to keep many clean sheets. It was a good win for them in the cup last night. But he's a 4.3 million goalkeeper who I think we're all happy just to kind of let tick over, because it allows us to do other things in the side. But I'm looking at Raya, who's now only kind of 0.5 more, and just thinking this is such a good way to tap into that Arsenal defence that I still think is going to do really well. They're top of the defensive stats so far this season. They've got good fixtures to come. So I'm eyeing up an Areola to Raya move, a goalkeeper move. Not this week, obviously it's Newcastle. I can hold, but potentially next week, I think is the move. Defence, I mean, look at this. I mean, Cash got a yellow card. We were all cursing him. He got taken off. And then seconds later, they kind of concede. So we ended up with 5 points, the highest of all the Villa defenders, which was nice. He could have had an assist for Watkins. Watkins spurring a really good opportunity. Disappointed with that, but look at him compared to the rest of my defenders. Kabore played 90 and got 0. Adogi didn't start. Really disappointed that he wasn't in the lineup, but at least they conceded. Gabriel, real surprise benching. I thought we all thought those days were behind him, and they weren't. And then Botman, who I should have dealt with ages ago, not playing. So in the end, I did play with 2 defenders because Kabore played, but 4 zeros from my 5 defenders. I can't ever remember having that before. So, yeah, not ideal. Elsewhere, though, pretty happy. I mean, other than Watkins, everyone came in. Salah got the kind of quite fortuitous goal with 8 points. Maddison matched Saka, which I was hoping he would do, because I would have to have sold him if I wanted him. Son with another goal. Glad I kept him because he looks really important sort of going forward. And Diaby finally coming in a week where I wasn't actually too confident on him. He got big score, 13 points. That saw me from quite a nasty red arrow, actually. I was around the kind of 3 million mark to a kind of an okay green. I've had 5 green arrows in a row now, so I'm kind of steadily climbing, but I haven't hit that kind of big week that other managers are having. I've seen Seb, has had a 100-point week. Praz obviously had Nketiah this week. People seem to be having like a kind of one player that kind of comes in. So, I need that really from someone else, and then sort of some other players to kind of chip in. But the teams are very kind of similar at the moment. There's not a huge amount of difference between them. And yeah, it's hard to know how to make up kind of a lot of ground. So at the moment, I think I'm kind of content to just chip away. I think the captaincy is kind of more important than it's ever been. If I'd been on the kind of the better side, if I'd captained maybe Haaland this week, if I'd gone for Salah in previous weeks, you're looking at 34 points, and then I'm probably in the top million, and everything's looking pretty good. But I can't really complain. Five greens in a row is nothing to worry about. Jake is coming up. This seems to be a thing that he does on Thursdays now. Let's get him up. Oh, there he is. It's a bit wet. Say hi, Jake. You're live to 100-ish people. Yeah. He smells a bit as well. Got that wet dog scent. But yeah, Snowden said he wins the race, says Greg Frost. Yeah, I think we'll take it. Like I said, 5 greens on the spin, better than getting reds. So yeah, we'll just carry on and hope someone like a Dingra or my new signing this week, or Diaby still quite lowly owned. Maddison's been sold. There's still some players. Your dog is a handsome boy. Yeah, he is the most handsome boy. He's very good. Delia says hi, Jakey. So if you're listening to the podcast, you don't see the great dog footage. So you're definitely missing out. Do check it out. Normally Thursdays around 9:15, 9:30, something like that. Let's take a look at the watch list. This is updated for game week 11. Looking kind of sorted by non-penalty XGI per 90. Kind of the players that I'm interested in. Cash is top of all defenders, I believe, 0.43. Estupinan, since before he got injured, was matching that 0.43 as well. I think he's an intriguing option going forward. I can see there's already some people kind of considering getting him in. He's been out for 3 weeks. We have really, really important games in Europe coming up. We've had a win, a loss, and a draw so far. Obviously, we need to win at least 2 of the next 3 games. I think to kind of make sure we qualify. It's Ajax back next, who we beat quite comfortably even without Estepinian, but you've got to think that he's going to come back in for that game. That means that it's Everton at the weekend. Is he kind of rushed back for that when we've got that Ajax game? I think he misses Ajax, plays. I think he misses Everton, plays Ajax, and then probably misses Sheffield United. Just to kind of help us in Europe a bit more. Because those are 2 winnable games, I think, without him. You never really know what De Zerbi's going to do. We don't really have any options there. Maybe he does play both, but They're the two games I'd really want him for, because after that it's Nottingham Forest away, Chelsea away, Brentford. They're not terrible fixtures, but obviously Everton and Sheffield United are about as good as it gets at the moment. So I think he's a risky one to get in this week, unless we get some kind of clear comments from De Zerbi that Estupiñán is ready to play, fit, available. I'd probably steer clear. The Everton game, I think, is a more predictable lineup for the attack than it is the defence. The Sheffield United game, that could be anything. I have absolutely no idea who's going to play in that match. But yeah, I would expect a full strength team against Everton. But whether Estupiñán's risked in that, I'm not entirely sure. So I think he's probably an avoid for me. Trippier 0.38. So I've avoided him up until now. I'm going to carry on avoiding him. It's kind of a weird one to even have on the watch list, because I am watching him. I'm watching him score bloody points every week, but I'm not actually considering getting him in. Tsimikas is next, 0.21. I was really impressed with him in their last game on set pieces, matching Trent, which is nice, really cheap, 4.6. One of those players who I think you can think, he's got two returns now. I've missed the boat on that. You haven't missed the boat on him. I think he's just a great pick going forward. He's the pick of defenders, really. I think for 4.6, absolutely great option until Robertson's back. So if you haven't got him, and you've got kind of Dogie or someone, I think he's a really easy move, and he was a really easy move for me this week before his price rise. I have got Trent on the list. You can see his non-prediction up at 90, 0.2. That is insanely low, though. We're used to seeing Trent kind of right up in the 0.5, 0.6 mark, especially with the new role that he's playing, but it just isn't happening for him at the moment. I think he got an assist last night, but at the moment, not justifying the money. I think you're only going to go for him if you haven't got Haaland, for example, and then you're going to be hopeful he's going to get something. I think this Luton game, if he's going to haul in any game, it's going to be this one. I think with the pitch the way it is, very congested, they're going to rely on him a bit more to play that killer ball, make that pass. I can see definitely an assist and a clean sheet for him in the next game. So, obvious hold. Would I buy him? Probably not. You've got Porro and Destiny. Both on kind of Porro on 0.18, Destiny Dogo on 0.12, both kind of quite similar. I think Porro owners will be feeling very hard done by, losing that clean sheet in the last minutes against Palace, who didn't really offer that much in that game. Adogi will be back on Monday. I've got absolutely no doubt. I think he was probably pretty close on Friday, but they obviously thought they could win that game without him. Make sure he's available for Chelsea. So important to the system. Ben Davies proved, I think, in that match that he's just not at the level that they need him to be at as an understudy. I think Emerson came in on the wrong side for him and did quite well. So he's there as a deputy, but you can't compare a kind of a naturally left-footed, natural left-sided player like Destiny with someone like Emerson playing out of position. So he's absolutely vital to the system with Perisic out. I have no doubt he'll be back. And then I've got Gabriel. Look, he's not been extra up in 90, 0.04. You really are relying on those clean sheet points with him. They are starting to play a few more kind of decent corners into the box. Saka got the assist from a very contentious assist, I think, even though Mark disagrees. But yeah, I think you're going to be unlikely to get points from Gabriel, from at least from an attacking sense. I imagine he's back and reinstated in the team though for Newcastle and beyond. And then I just added two 4 million options really: Branthwaite and Lascelles. Lascelles has got absolutely no goal for it whatsoever. That's fine. He's 4 million, playing for one of the top defences. Branthwaite's got a little bit more. Looks really good. Everton's defence numbers aren't too bad. And the fixtures, there's the odd game you can play him in. I'd still prefer Lascelles. If I was, downgrading a defender this week and having to free up some money, I think Botman's going to be out for a while. Now, these kind of niggling injuries can last for ages. Lascelles has played really well. So I think Lascelles is a nice pick, even when the home fixtures are tough. Chelsea, Manchester United. I wouldn't be surprised to see clean sheets in those for Newcastle. So yeah, I really like Lascelles. He's a good pick. Looking at midfield, I think Fatty's a really fun option for this week. If you are looking for a 1 week punt, I am almost 100% sure that Fatty's going to start up front for us against Everton. He has great underlying stats so far in the league, but big caveat, he hasn't actually made a start yet, but he's growing more into the side, I think. He had a big performance in Ajax, got the goals in that. and he's looking to have more of an impact kind of off the bench. I think he'll definitely be given the start this week. So maybe if you're wildcarding game week 12 or you're looking for someone for this week, then Fatty's a punt. I mean, I would, whether he starts against Sheffield United the week after is a complete lottery. But even again off the bench, home game against Sheffield United, he looks good. So yeah, a bit of a fun one for 6.5. Abumo's on there as well. 6.7, he's gone up again. I think he went up last night. 0.78, crazy stats. With penalties, fixtures aren't great, but who cares? He keeps finding a way to score points. So yeah, obviously really like him. I'd probably put him above Matoma. Around the same price, 6.5. Matoma, he's a fine pick. He's the most probably the most reliable pick that we have in the Brighton squad. But apart from the 2 goals he scored against in the last game, not in the last game, sorry, against Bournemouth, there's a lot of blanks for him. Blanked against West Ham, blanked against Manchester United, and then he's blanked in the last 4 games as well. He can score. He scored a wonder goal against Wolves where he dribbled past kind of everyone, but teams work him out a little bit. I think he's still quite effective at what he does, but in terms of really getting those attacking returns, I think there's better options than him for 6.5. I'm happy with a Dinger at 5. Would I pay 6.5 for Matoma? I'm not totally sure that I would. Obviously, you hold him if you've got him, but I would be rushing to buy him. I like Gordon at 5.7 as well. He can play up front. Showed that last night. I like Bowen as well. Also played up front last night, 0.49. And then you've got Palmer as well at 5 million. He just looked absolutely brilliant in that match. And then you've got the kind of the Saka-Maddison conundrum, which is what I'm having to kind of deal with each week. Selling Maddison to Saka, I just don't feel completely comfortable with it. Maddison's been so good, but obviously the Arsenal fixtures are so good, and Saka's really that talisman in the team. So it's not easy for me to do it because Saka's a bit more expensive. So it's probably going to be a hit if I want to do it in the near future to do Saka to Maddison Saka. I don't know. It's not sitting with me right, so I might end up avoiding it altogether. So yeah, and just fear Saka every week because he's got high ownership. I know Arsenal are capable of scoring goals. The fixtures are good. There's lots of reasons to get him. It's just the makeup of my team doesn't lend itself particularly well to buying him. And then up front, not really many forwards. I think that we can consider. Maybe Wilson is a little bit unlucky not to be added to this, but I'm still preferring the 5 in midfield. Darwin's at the top. I think he's a lovely pick. Against Luton this week. Honestly, I think he's a captain contender if you've got him with the kind of aerial presence that he's got and how deep they're going to sit. I think they're going to get crosses into the box, and I think he could benefit from that. Haaland isn't going anywhere now, although the captaincy is going to be coming off him, I think, for at least a few weeks going forward. Watkins, glad to have him. Underlying stats still good. He put in his highest XG performance of the season against Luton. Really unlucky not to get something from that game. I wouldn't panic about that too much. And then I've left Alvarez on there because it's still a Man City attacker for 7.2. After the fixtures get a bit better, I think particularly for that double game week that they're potentially going to have sort of towards the end of the year, I think Alvarez is going to almost certainly come back into a lot of our sides. Lots of good picks. I'm pretty happy with my team kind of going forward. This is how I'm kind of set up for this week. Areola in goal. I think he's kind of the weak link really in this side. I've got Udogie for Chelsea. They're struggling to score goals. I think they win that game quite comfortably, Spurs. Cash and Simicast, who's come in for Botman. And then it's Salah, Son, Maddison, Diaby, Adingra, Haaland, captain obviously against Bournemouth. Really hopeful for a massive return on that. And then Watkins. And I've actually got a bench option with Gabriel on the bench now. So it was kind of, a lot of stress this week trying to work out who to sell. Should I sell Udogie if he's still got the flag? But then he probably comes back into the team, and I think he's a good option. Do I sell Gabriel? Now he's been dropped. But what if he comes back into the team and Arsenal got good fixtures? The benefits of selling those two would have given me that 0.1 needed to have done Maddison to Saka potentially next week. So I've kind of killed off that route really by selling Botman, who's a little bit cheaper. But I think my team generally looks much healthier having made that move. So overall, kind of pretty happy to have done that and to have gotten rid of Botman really, who's really been kind of stinking up my team for a while. So that is where I'm at. Let's go over to the chat, see if there's any kind of questions. Let me know if you've got any issues that you want me to take a look at before we go. Talk about Jake sitting on my lap is he gives me a bit of hay fever. So if you see me kind of rubbing my nose, then that is why. BJN says Archer to Nketiah, possible. It's not possible for me, not unless I make a pretty sizable downgrade somewhere. I could do something like a Dogie to Lascelles, for example, and then Archer to Nketiah. But then that would mean sort of benching, if we come back to my team, that would mean benching. I mean, who do I bench next week? Diaby's got Fulham, Son and Maddison with Villa. I mean, I could bench Maddison, but again, it doesn't feel great. Watkins, Haaland, maybe a Dingra gets benched for Nketiah. Yeah, it's a possibility. If I do want to tap into the Arsenal attack, it just feels a bit like, I know Nketiah is a good pick, but Saka is really the one I want, and picking a player who's kind of inferior, spending quite a bit of money, kind of, having a strong bench, kind of, I don't know, makes my team a little bit more inflexible. I'm not entirely sure if it's worth it. So, yeah, I might do it. I do like Nketiah as a pick, but I'd probably want to play him every week, to be honest, if I had him. And, maybe switch, if I switch to Dingra to Nketiah, for example, that would be the play. But there'd be too much surgery needed to do that. So probably not gonna do that. Let's take a look at something else. Johnson or Areola? Jared C. Yeah, I think Johnson's... I'm just not sold on Areola. He's so popular. I feel like that's maybe somewhere where we can twist a little bit. And then you look at Crystal Palace's fixtures. Burnley, Everton, Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth. That's a great run. I'd pay the extra money for Johnston, I think. I made an early transfer and bought Gabriel before his price rise. Am I completely screwed? But Gabriel? Gabriel's price hasn't gone up, has it? Oh, it has gone up. Interesting. No, you're fine. He'll be back in the side. He'll be. He played last night. Only because he obviously got the rest in the last game. He'll play against Newcastle for sure. So I wouldn't worry about that one. He'll play the Champions League, and then it's Burnley at home. I mean, he could rest him for Kiwior, but just make sure by next week you've got an okay sub, because it's unlikely he's going to come on. So I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't worry too much. Greg Frost, I prefer 4.5 for the 8th attacker, keep the first team strong. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I could maybe move like a Dingra and Archer to Nketiah and someone, but I think I'm going to keep the faith in Dingra. I still like him for the next, and it's Sheffield United. I'm not going to sell him ahead of that. For that one. SCFBL, thoughts on Carabao Cup results? Another big win for Liverpool, lots of goals for them. Salah played in that, Darwin, strong team, Simicast as well. I think they're just showing that they're a real force this year. So if you've loaded up on Liverpool attackers this week, I think you've got to be hopeful for points. West Ham beating Arsenal so comfortably was a shock. It was a chance for some of the Arsenal kind of reserves to kind of showcase their ability. Havertz as well, really disappointing. Players like Vieira, Nelson, these are all players who want to stake a claim of first team football, won't have done themselves any favours in that match. So great result for Liverpool, obviously awful result for Arsenal, but I think really cements a couple of key players in their sides. Arsenal will see that they can't really afford to make too many changes in games because they can't have another performance like that. And Liverpool will look at Darwin and Salah and think, okay, you're going to be playing every week now. So useful for us. None of us were considering Manchester United anyway. Newcastle just go from strength to strength. We're not going to be selling any of their players. So yeah, I think just the result just kind of reaffirmed kind of a lot of what we already knew, really. So yeah, but interesting. Another distraction for Newcastle having to play Chelsea in the Carabao Cup. Yeah, I think you say it's a distraction from FPL terms, but they won a trophy, right? If you remember City back in the day when they started, they're on their path to dominance. They won the Carabao Cup, and that kind of sets a bit of a precedent for what's going to come. So how is prioritising the Carabao Cup? I think obviously he's making changes, giving players like Wilson a rest, but I think in the later stages he's going to be playing stronger and stronger teams, and will against Chelsea as well. And he'll want to go one step further and win it this season. United's defence in the Carabao Cup looked worse than a promoted team. Their defence against City looked worse than a promoted team. I don't know what other team in the league would have would have Maguire and Evans at centre back. Genuinely, I look at some of the promoted teams and I think, would Burnley swap their centre backs for those two? I don't know. I think maybe that's a bit harsh on Maguire, but Johnny Evans should not be starting against Man City or in Premier League games. He should be like last reserve. The fact they're dipping into that and Lindelof at left back, I mean, yeah, it's an absolute joke. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't be investing in any Manchester United players, despite the next 2 fixtures looking really, really good. Chelsea getting 120 million for Havertz and Mount, looking good business. Absolutely, yeah. With all the money they've spent, they need to recoup some, and they've done well with those 2 picks. I was completely wrong about Havertz. Like, don't get me wrong. I was tipping him all season. The only reason I didn't start with him was because I had the money to go for Odegaard, who didn't do that much better. I think he got a goal and some bonus, but I was not expecting Havertz to be as poor as he's been. I thought this would be a new lease of life for him. But yeah, really, really, really disappointing signing for Arsenal so far. And I think Arteta's starting to lose a bit of trust in him. I think that the Xhaka, losing Xhaka was so big. And a couple of years ago, we all thought, he was the weak link in the team. But losing him has been huge. They haven't been able to replace that with Havertz. And they're not the kind of, I know they've just scored 5, but they're not the kind of same swashbuckling team that we saw in games last season. Rice has really improved them sort of all over the pitch, but they are missing that kind of box to box link. I think that Xhaka brought into the side, and Havertz just can't do that. Delia says don't sell Maddison. Learn from my mistakes. Yeah, I don't want to sell Maddison, but it kind of might have to be. Zubin says, will Arsenal score against Newcastle? Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll win that game. I think it'll be tight. I think they'll win it 1-0. But wouldn't be too surprised if it went the other way and Newcastle won that. But yeah, I think Arsenal score in that. So if you've got Nketiah, if you've got Saka, probably not buys this week, but you definitely play them in that week. Tarek, one of our new Godfather tier members, Trippier, Gordon, Archer, to Gahey, Palmer and Darwin for a -4. No, not for me. I think, you're looking at Trippier and Gordon. Okay, it's a tough game this week, but next week it's Bournemouth as well. You've probably got quite a lot of money invested in them. I think Gordon's a good pick. I think Trippier's a good pick as well. Gahey's got good fixtures, but, he's nowhere near as good as Trippier. Palmer and Gordon, I'd rather have Gordon in that. Darwin's fun, but I think you're sacrificing a bit too much, and for a hit as well. No, I don't think I'd do that. I would be tempted for Darwin, but then I think next week you're going to be thinking, oh, I wish I had Trippier and Gordon back in my side. So no, not for a hit. I think that's about it for me. Vezani says English media killed Xhaka, great player, scapegoat. He didn't help himself though, did he? He got red carded and clapping the fans sarcastically. I know he had a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but I don't think he helped himself. But yeah, he was a bit of a scapegoat for that team in the end, and I'm glad he left with his head held high, because he had a great season, obviously, last season. So that's it from me. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. I'll be back next week ahead of Game Week 12. Good luck in Game Week 11. Have a good weekend as well, and I will see you all very soon.